Askreddit Asks, marriage, engagement photographers, videographers of Reddit, have you developed a sixth sense for which marriages will flourish and which will not? What are the green and red flags?
Ex-wedding photographer. Typically I saw red flags when the bride or groom is super quiet. I mean silent and just watching. One instance was a groom who barely said 10 words to anyone during the ceremony or reception afterwards. The bride and her mother were extremely loud and excited the entire time. The bride needed everything to be perfect. I dropped off the photo bundle with them 2 weeks later and he was still quiet. She however complained about all of the pictures because the groom wasn't smiling enough. She wanted a discount because I couldn't make him look happy enough. They got divorced about a year later. I know because I did his engagement photos with his new fiancée about 4 years after his first wedding. His engagement photos showed him much happier. Edit. I stopped doing weddings but I do some portraits and mostly commercial and product work. He called me for a wedding quote but I had stopped doing them at that point. I do still do portraits so I offered to do engagement photos for him that he was happy with.
Photographer here. I've done a few engagement photos and weddings. Red flags. When one person is critical of the other during the shoot but then posts the photos with the caption, "About to marry my best friend and my soulmate." Also, when they badly Photoshop themselves and their partners to appear better looking than they actually are. Green flags. A couple who can laugh together when doing awkward poses. When they're wiping sweat from their foreheads. And when something goes wrong in general. Edit. Goodness, this blew up. To answer a few questions. I only edit the lighting and background of photos. I have never and will never edit someone's body. Once I have been paid for my edited photos. I do believe the photos belong to the couple and they are free to tweak them any way they like. Although, I do think there is no need to edit your face body. People who are truly happy for you don't care how perfect you look in your photos. Besides, I think that genuine love and happiness make the most beautiful photos. Not a slim waist and perfect skin. To address the wiping of the sweat, I did a photo shoot for a couple in the middle of an intense Texas summer. It was incredibly hot and humid that day and the man was sweating rivers. Him and his fiancée were such good sports about it though. I've done photo shoots for brides-to-be who get extremely offended and angry when their partner doesn't look perfect. I was very happy that this particular bride-to-be just had a good time taking silly photos with her fiancé. Honestly, their photos turned out great.
There is one particular venue that has a 100% divorce rate with our clients. It's a state park, which I've dubbed Omen Meadows.
Please, it's killing me. What's the official name of Omen Meadows? Question mark.
Fascinating. Please tell us more about the horrors of Omen Meadows.
Photographer here. To me the biggest sign is the cake cutting. Some people like to smear the cake everywhere as a joke. Some people don't. Usually the couple is in sync about this. They know what the other would like and they don't smush cake on the other's face if they wouldn't want that. Sometimes one of them, usually the groom, will force cake all over the other's face and embarrass and upset them. I've seen this happen a handful of times and all of those relationships that I have kept up with have ended in a divorce.
Wedding planner here. Red flags. Nerves are normal but when one of the pair start doubting whether they should go through with it WAAAY before the day. You know something isn't quite right. Green flags. They make decisions together and have each other's backs especially when family can be pressuring.
My first wife had 2 kids when we got married. We fed each other the cake nicely. Then turned around and smushed it in the kids' faces. Closing parenthesis. That made me smile.
Outstanding move. Edit. I went to shower and eat and came back to this. Y'all are great. I want everyone to have a great day.
This is the kind of content I like to see. 3.
Photographer here. You can tell somewhat based on how the couple treats each other on the wedding day. If they are respectful toward one another, and toward me during a day full of stress, then I think that's a good indicator of being able to deal with other problems that may arise during a marriage.
Wedding videographer here. I try to get to know both people beforehand, so I can work in their hobbies, unique traits into my product. A big red flag is when one person is clearly trying to change the other. I had one dude who loved poker, craft beer, cigars, hanging with his rowdy friends, video games, etc. I planned a cool shoot where I had all his friends in an Old West saloon. And he sees his bride-to-be, etc., but she steps in and declares, oh, he won't be doing any of those things anymore. Poor bastard just sat there in silence as I awkwardly had to plan him shopping for a Yorkie puppy instead. Halfway through post-production after the wedding, he called and said he was getting an annulment. I wanted to say, could have told ya so. But I try to stay neutral. Green flags are just the opposite. Embracing the other person's habits, hobbies, interests. Basically not being a controlling freak show.
My husband wanted to do a cake smash but knew I didn't, so he smashed the cake into his own face, lol.
I respect his ability to compromise face with tears of joy.
I'd say marry him, but you already did.
That's amazing.
Cake artist here. I had a couple come in for a tasting. Appointment was for 7 p.m. But he was late. First half hour was just her. She told me they met at a stable where they both kept their horses. Those horses were going to be featured at the wedding as the bride and groom would ride them to the site, a beautiful farm venue. Closing parenthesis. She described in detail her self-designed medieval gown. Flower wreath in her hair. Embroidered shoes like some from a museum. Sounded lovely. She wanted a cake like a castle, which was a specialty of mine. The whole wedding would be over the top, but not in a cringy way. Then he arrives. Barely says hi to her. Sits down and starts telling me about his wedding. He'll ride in dressed as a riverboat gambler with a frock coat, brocade vest, string tie, big hat, gold pocket watch, and sterling silver spurs. He's fine with the castle cake, but wants to incorporate the watch and a pair of mother-of-pearl handled pistols, picture given. I had already decided that I was not going to work with them. No way could I come up with a cake that would work for them. But they were there, so I brought out the samples. For the next hour they carried on two entirely separate monologues. They didn't address each other, or me, and they didn't listen to each other, or me. I made no attempt to book them that night. And when they called later in the week, I told them their date had been taken. They were living in two incompatible and entirely self-contained fantasies. I doubt they even made it to the wedding day.
Well, at least he liked your work enough to hire you a second time despite him being miserable the first time. So you must be a damn good photographer.
Who do you like for the photographer? Honey, well, the only aspect of my previous marriage that didn't make me feel like dying was the photographer who didn't force me to smile like a monkey. Her.
I just want to keep up voting this. Oh my god, you got me to belly laugh.
Best advice I got about marriage was from my psychology professor. He told us never to marry someone until you've seen how they react when something goes wrong. I think for some couples that may turn out to be the day of the wedding. Edit. Best advice from this comment thread. Go on a trip together. Go camping or go somewhere you've never been. Put up wallpaper together. Maybe try playing Monopoly if you're feeling extra saucy. But guys, please don't force your so into something they don't want to do, and don't intentionally try to make things as hard as possible to test them. Let things progress normally and just live life together. Life is full of obstacles. Don't create more of them, because you're also just going to make it harder on yourself, and you may drive people away doing that. Best of luck to all of you and happy travels.
Photographer here. I swear that all of the couples that have split up have smashed the cake in their SO's face. None of the nice cake couples have. Just my weird anecdotal experience. Maybe it's a sign of respect for each other. You're the second person I've heard say this. If it's not okay with both people, it totally makes sense. I feel like I would want to do that. But plan it ahead of time.
Okay, what is this cake smashing? I've seen this mentioned in this thread many times, but I've never seen anything like that on any wedding I've been to. Is this some weird American tradition that I don't know?
Wedding videographer here. I don't usually follow the marriage all that closely after the video is delivered. But usually you have a feeling as a neutral third party about whether it's going to last or not. While I agree with most of the stuff mentioned here, I've found that the microcosm of how the couple feels about each other usually comes out during the cake cutting. If the drinking, then they've usually had a few by that point, and it's a moment when everyone is watching you do something potentially awkward with your new so. When I see a new bride or groom aggressively smush cake into the other's face, I usually feel like that's a strong sign of an unbalanced relationship. Sometimes they're both having fun with it and you can tell it's cool. But most of the time you can tell that the person with cake on their face is either shocked or angry about it. Again, I don't have hard data to track results, but that's the thing that usually informs my opinion about how it's going to work out. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Also thanks for sharing all the stories about the cake smushers that have led to long and happy marriages. It seems like it's definitely more about the attitude of the couple and how they react than the actual act itself.
Wedding videographer. Probably when the bride got absolutely blackout drunk and started telling everyone at the party, in that drunk loud whisper, that she was fucking the groom's brother.
Lol, this isn't a red flag. This is when you get a divorce.
What a shitty brother.
I don't know all y'all, but that's a red flag in my book.
Used to be a wedding planner. Red flags. Constant apologizing for their other half's behavior, attitude. Lack of input from one of them. Too much input from a family member's. Anger. Inability to make a decision and stick with it. Overriding a once joint agreement of something. At one wedding I didn't actually meet the groom till the day of. I just knew his name, Joseph, at it. Also when they are very young, have a small child and or haven't been together long. Green flags. When a couple mutually respect the other's wishes and compromise. Both present at every meeting. Supportive and patient. Friendly and respectful of staff. When you can tell they are both relieved to see one another again and it's like no one else is there. It's like an unspoken conversation with each other and makes me smile.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day, you marvelous people.